I grew up on the kind of message boards that still look like dial-up. Threads with 5 replies over 8 years. Avatar skulls. People arguing about cold spots like weather maps. That's where Whistlewood Hollow kept surfacing. Never with photos that weren't fakes. Never with coordinates anyone would stand behind. Just the same bones, told a dozen ways. Late 50s, western/mining theme park. Off an old state highway. Founders who spent too much money on real timber and fake rock. Clown named Cumbleweed, who did acrobatics and pratfalls on the town square stage. And then, an accident. Fire under the stage in '76. And a fast coin no one wanted to write down. Our thing. Mine. Cassidy, but everyone calls me Cass. Wes, Zach, Emily, and Tyler. Isn't busting ghosts. We run a small channel with those location stories. Hauntings, yes. But also why places get that way. We bring mics, maps, batteries, and enough skepticism to not embarrass ourselves. Sometimes we get a draft in a doorway. Sometimes we get raccoons. We post either way. Whistlewood was the kind you chase for a year and then pretend you didn't. Because there's nothing worse for a ghost hunter than a ghost that's just a rumor. We dug county archives. We found a bypass approved in '74 and completed soon after. An old spur road marked on the topo and then scratched off in later printing. We found a faded reference to Prospector's Descent, mine walkthrough, on a brochure scan. Half sentence in a tourist guide about family shows and tumbleweed but tumbling clown. No photos of the fire and no demolition order. We decided on a weekend in late fall, because the brush goes thin and the air carries sound. We'd go light, plan to heat each zone before blue hour, and start the investigation after dark, if we were still there. None of us said it, but we wanted to be the ones who proved Whistlewood existed. If it didn't, we wanted to be the ones who proved it didn't. We rolled into the last town before the hills. 2 pumps, diner with a pie sign, hardware store that sold more jerky than bolts. We didn't announce what we were doing, but people can smell a camera, even if it's in a bag. At the pump, a man in a watch cap shrugged when asked about the old highway spur.
Well, the storm stood down a lot. County never bothered.
He said, eyes on the total, like it might change if he looked away. Wasn't evasive, just tired. In the diner, Emily did the soft approach, with the woman bussing the counter.
My grandparents once mentioned Whistlewood Hollow.
She said, not asking, just leaving it open. Woman blinked like the name rang a bell and then didn't commit to it.
Here used to be things, or the road moved.
When Emily asked if she'd never seen a clown show there, Cumbleweed, the woman smiled the way people do when they don't want to be unhelpful. They don't want to be helpful either.
I was a kid. All I remember is saltwater taffy.
Wes bought a paper county map from the hardware store and a pack of flag pins. Because paper doesn't lose signal. We marked the old highway and the logging spur, but might still need it. Librarian's hours were a single index card taped to the door. It said closed. We took that as a sign to stop asking and start walking. We didn't leave with warnings. We left with that feeling you get around a place that's been asked the same thing too many times. By kids who are sure their luck will be different. We weren't spooked, just over it. The old highway kept its paint like a rumor. Faded centerline, shoulders eaten, but still paved. Trees leaned in. We passed a buckling milepost with a W shield and nothing else. Kind of sign the county forgets until a storm makes it someone's problem. Zach had the window cracked, running warm-ups to camera.
All right, creeps and crypt keepers. Tonight's field trip, possibly the most haunted, most forgotten, and most definitely off-limits amusement park in the Pacific Northwest. Will we find ghosts? Will we find mold? Will we find the ghost of mold? Stay tuned. No service.
What'd you expect? We barely had a bar in town. The access road came on like a mistake. Narrower asphalt, frayed edges, blackberry canes trying to take it back. 200 yards in, the first down trunk lay across the lane. Then 2 more. One sponge soft with rot, another damp like it fell this year. No obvious saw marks, just breaks where weight did the work. Parked in the last wide spot, killed the lights, and unloaded. Unslit, the road felt like a story instead of a right-of-way. Reflector stakes leaning, a rotted trash barrel with a cartoon prospector peeling off in curls. Nailed-on warning sign so sunshot he could only read "keep out," feared he knew what it said. Farther on, the brush thinned, and a post and B march showed through. White paint crazed with age, letters still legible under the moss. Whistlewood Hollow, established 1959. We stopped long enough for Zach to get his intro framed, the sign over his shoulder, bloods carrying our breath away. We kept moving, and the chain link fence rose out of the trees. Didn't belong into the 50s. County job, taller, newer, the kind you put up after the lawyers get nervous. The gate wore a padlock someone else had cut before us. Chain rewound and repadlocked by a person who wanted it to look shut more than be shut. Brush had done the rest. We logged coordinates and pretended that made it less illegal. Tyler clipped the tired padlock and swung a section just enough to slip through. We planned to make Town Square our base for the night. Flat ground, some cover, sightlines, if it felt right. That was the thinking as we stepped through. The turnstiles were waist-high steel with painted wooden tops. Zach patted his pockets with a face like he was late to a flight.
Ooh, crap. Forgot my boarding pass.
He said, then vaulted the turnstile like a kid. He was better in person than on video. It was also exactly who he was. Park map under cloudy acrylic sat in a kiosk to the right. Emily wiped the fly with her sleeve and read the boxes down.
Town Square stage, saloon show, paying for gold, prospector's descent, mine walkthrough, carousel and tumbleweed, acrobatics and pratfalls. 11 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 5 o'clock.
Her finger traced the little star marking the stage.
They worked that poor guy all day.
Carnival labor. Yet paid in applause and heat stroke.
The square had a dry fountain center and boardwalks spanning out. Planks sopped with age, some scabbed where their feet had tried them. False fronts had gotten real with time. Glass clouded from within, saloon door breathing on one hinge when you touched it. Somewhere above, a sign on the loose hardware tapped against the tin every so often and sent the sound wandering along the facades, back again. And well beside the stage carried a sun-bleached lithograph of tumbleweed. Bowler hat, pale ruffled sleeves, jovial smile.
Lithographs like printed from a drawing on stone.
Emily said, half sure, half teaching herself.
They used to sell these like posters.
Somebody had sharpied, "Don't be late," under the schedule star a lifetime ago. Wes checked the panel behind the stage stairs and found it dead. He flicked a breaker out of habit. Nothing. We weren't surprised. We moved toward Prospector's Row to get a lay of the place. Painting troughs, kid-sized mine cars, photo emporium with those wooden cutouts you put your face through and pretend it's 1889. We made notes about what we'd hit in what order, where we'd put the base table, what the light was doing. When we crossed back from the square, the boards creaked behind us, like we'd remembered how. We hadn't turned to check whose weight they were carrying. Prospector's Row split off the square, and their painted arch of pickaxes and stars. Sightlines went long and low, waltz rock, weathered signs, and the kind of kid-scale exhibits to make adults nostalgic for reptilians they never actually had. The payment for gold troughs ran in a shallow zigzag. The rabble gone, green at the corners. Cartoon prospector on a sign that a grin like a shovel.
Strike it lucky, guaranteed.
Zach leaned on the rail and filmed to the silt.
Peak optimism. You're 7, you find gold, and boom. 20 years later, you're begging for scraps in the comment section.
Emily snorted, despite herself. A waist-high teaching model stood under plexi, a cross-section of a hill with little ore veins painted lightning white, tiny tunnels threaded through.
Oh, this is good.
Emily said, tapping the font to cover.
They could have phoned it in. Kids wouldn't even notice, but they didn't.
She wasn't just being sentimental. She respected craft. We worked a lane. A photo emporium with sun-ruined backdrops and the plywood cutouts. You know, the kind you stick your face in, become a grizzled miner or a mule. The nugget circuit, kid-sized mine cars on a short oval, half-buried rail winging through dust. A few cars still sat on the track, nose to nose, bumpers dull. Stop latch at the load platform was still there, 3 inches from an old scuff. Beyond that, an open blacksmith shed. Anvil bolted to a stump. Cold forge long dead, tongs laid out like they'd been set down yesterday. Stamp mill demo, Ford's lined one wall. Simple diagrams and placards that walked you from crushing to washing to smoking. No power, just the bones of how it worked. Across from the shed, the rope bridge / outlaws cut through. A kid jungle gym version of a suspension bridge over a dry drainage, netting slung under the planks. The H bridge, not exactly inspiring confidence. Slow, I said. Center, one at a time. Zach went second, made a sly face, and then his heel slipped. He dropped to a knee, grabbed the rope, not far, enough that the net creaked, and a forced laugh nobody quite believed. Popped back up and bowed to no one. A tinny pop echoed from a horn speaker up in the eaves near the nugget circuit. Just drifted from the grill.
Backfeed. Old Cap's trying to take a charge from nowhere. Doesn't mean we have power.
We logged the panel locations on our printed map anyway, because one days doesn't mean becomes some days, just in case. Before we bailed on the row, Emily wiped the framed facade with her sleeve. A sun-baked brochure behind glass. Prospector's Descent, mine walkthrough. Sat boxed at the far end. Chain icon drawn over the doors. Little arrow pointed to staff access. We clapped it and kept moving. We cut back toward the square, boards creaking lightly as we tread. The rapids sat in a shallow basin behind the row. Queue ribs, dry load platform, chalk white flumes sneaking out and back. Sun had burned the paint off the height sign. Top read, "You must be this tall," and nothing below it survived. 3 logboats idled in the maintenance bay. Noses kissed to the bumper bars, ropes hung slack. Everything had that faint, baked-in fiberglass smell. You only notice when the air doesn't move. Through and past it, I said. We scout platforms and sightlines now, save the big shots for Blue Hour. We took the platform steps down. Wes pointed out the stop latch, a simple arm that catches a hole so it can't walk when pumps are off.
Purely mechanical. If it's set, the boat might give you a scare, but then stop being a problem.
Wow, great design ethos. Scare first, then safety.
Tyler stepped into the channel to clear a hole that blocked the narrow path along the wall.
2 seconds.
He said, setting a shoulder to the bow. It shifted, cascaded, then caught on the latch of the dull clunk. He grinned at Emily.
Whew, still working.
We filmed the latch, the scuff where the hole had moved, and the smear it left behind.
Park wasn't dead.
Emily said, more to herself than to the camera.
Was just waiting.
We checked the pump room door, locked, hinges still honest, then followed the service lane around the back, noting a lick, PA, pump, stencils on metal doors. We test later if we needed shelter. Nothing moved by our voices or our own heads. Scanned for a line out, that only fence beyond the trees. Alright, we'll circle back to the square, hit Widowmaker, then plan our night, I said. No one argued. We let the boats to their dreams. The path climbed into fake canyon rock. Fiberglass painted the color of rust and dust, seamed soft with moss. Widowmaker arched over the station in blocky letters, one O sagging on a rustic bracket. Graffiti filled the lower walls, initials, dates, crude prospector, layers of people proving they'd gotten this far. The station was open to the air. Dispatch booths behind plexi clouded the milk. A rack of "hands up" signs leaving against a rail. Flooring was scuffed where beat used to queue along the painted lines. Inside the booth, the panel matched Rapids and Spirit. Key, e-stop, big toggles labeled lift, brakes, dispatch, photo. A laminated SOP, stained and corner cracked, ran down the steps. Last initials landed on October 27th, 1976. Someone had added in pen, station brake lag, car 2, check pads. Below that, October 28th, lit chain noise, grease order submitted. Do not run if greater than 80 decibels. We're not powering anything, I said, more habit than warning.
Wouldn't matter.
Wes said, peering under the counter.
Dead feed, dead bus.
The train wasn't in the station. We found it on the transfer spur. 2-car mine train with lap bars and vinyl seats split at the seams. Wheel chock sat against the rear truck. Nearby, a small bottle jack and cred blocks lay half under a tarp, like someone had stashed them mid-maintenance. Tyler put 2 fingers on the grab bar, and the car didn't move.
Locked up.
Like he was relieved to be denied. Past the station, a straight brake run stretched toward the lift hill. Evac catwalks rode alongside, railings stole with oxidation. No step, stenciled every other plank. Zach climbed 2 rungs of the ladder to check the view, then back down without being asked. The lift rose into the rockwork at a patient angle. Chain trough cut a straight line up the spine. Dog plates along the underside waited with their teeth out. Sheet metal motor room squatted at the base, door unlatched. Inside, a gearbox sat under dust like a fossil. On the nail, a grease gun and a rad turned the color of coffee. Maintenance logbook lay on the shelf. Wes clipped it with a fingertip. October 25th. Clean station brake shoes. October 26th. Photo eye intermittent reseat. October 27th. Chain dog inspection, okay. October 28th. Lift noise. Resun order. Null entry for the 29th, and nothing after. Zach filmed the logbook, then the do not run tag zip-tied to a guard with nothing left to guard. He spoke quieter than usual, almost to himself.
All these precautions. How did a fire still happen?
No one answered. We followed the catwalk to the on-ride photo booth. Cramped room with a dead printer and racks of empty frames. Hand-lettered sign above the window read, "Stay gold." Chemical jug, satin milk crate under the desk, lids fused shut. In the folder, 3 photo strips stuck together. When Wes eased them apart, sun ghosts and white blurs peeled like skin. One strip had a date stamp, 76, and a blank oval where a face should have been. We didn't make anything of it. He just filmed it and put it back. Back at the base of the lift, Wes leaned over the chain trough and nudged with the screwdriver handle, testing play. Metal answered with a dry scrape. Tapped again by the dog, lighter touch. Dog snapped down sync tooth with a clean final click that traveled the spine and came back slower. Emily flinched.
That felt intentional.
It wasn't. It's just gravity in a spring. Old metal settling where it wants to sit.
There was more to catalog. The first aid cart, half under a tarp with gauze and triangle bandages. Souvenir kiosk, welded shut. Bin still labeled, "I survived the Widowmaker." Horn speaker tucked in a rock seam, its mesh clogged with spider nests. On the brake run, one lap bar, frozen half closed. Looked like a gesture someone had left behind. We shot the panel, the motor room, the transfer spur, then traced a service walkway that cut behind the canyon to the utility corridor pointing back toward the center of the park. The sun had dropped a notch without asking us. "We've got what we need," I said. "Mark the lift, the brakes, the booth, then we head back to the square." Zach got one last wide of the station, the letters of Widowmaker leaning against the sky. Tyler looked back at the catwalks like he was measuring something. We packed gear, took a service path, and left the coaster to its quiet. Dusk gathered in the square. We set a folding table under the lee of the saloon facade and stacked our gear in reach. Batteries, a med kit, headlamps, Zach's camera bag. Carousel animals watched with glass eyes that didn't know how to look away. "Base camp, town square," I said to Zach's lens, steadying my voice. "We'll hit the stage crawl first. There was a fire here in '76. If we can figure out where it started, we can figure out why it started." The hatch under the stage was the wood panel with the metal pull ring. Tyler levered it up and held it while I slid past. The air under there smelled like old rope and something burnt that never got washed out. The others followed, Tyler staying up top, just in case. We moved on knees and elbows. Char marked the joists near center stage, spread like spilled ink. Wiring ran along the beam in a sloppy braid. Half of it had melted into a black robe. The dimmer box, or junction? Hard to tell now. Had left a shadow on the subfloor. Emily held her light on a nailhead gone to glass.
Origins here. Under the center wiring, or a prop on a bad cord. Maybe both.
Arson?
Wes shook his head, but seemed unsure.
Maybe. But it looks like heat from below up. Not splash. Could have been garbage under here, paper rags, caught from a short. And your curtain goes, and then the crowd.
Emily shifted and hissed. Torn edge of tin bit her calf.
I'm flying.
She said through gritted teeth, already reaching for a ramp in her pocket. "Up," I said. "Don't bleed on history." We backed out and Tyler lowered the hatch. On the steps I cleaned Emily's cut with the brown antiseptic that smelled like an old hospital and taped it tight. Zach filmed my hands. "Stitches later," I said. Emily nodded like later meant anything. I straightened to say something practical into the lens, maybe a quick public safety notice for viewers. And then the lights came on. Not bright, just on. Bare bulbs along the facades blinked themselves awake, one by one, and the carousel took a breath and began turning. Music coughed out of the organ, that old circus music you'd hear sometimes. Though much less whimsical, especially all distorted out of the old rusty speakers. Nobody spoke at first. We looked up at the power lines they'd seen sagging earlier, and then at each other.
Backfeed?
Not from here. If it's running from somewhere. This couldn't happen without a generator or a live feed.
I felt the air shift, like the park had just taken notice of us. But we'd seen weirder false positives. Old wiring playing tricks. Still no harm in playing it smart. "Ace stays here," I said, keeping my tone even. "Everyone keep an eye out, just in case we're not alone. We don't split, and we move if it feels off." The music kept time with itself. Horses went nowhere. Square looked like it had remembered how to host a crowd, and was patient about us being the wrong crowd. The square didn't look dead anymore. Facade bulbs found their rhythm. The carousel turned like it didn't know how to stop. We didn't film an opener. We didn't have the voice for it.
I think we should head for the gate. That cut's not nothing. Let's see if we can hike back to town and get it looked at properly. If the path's clear, we call it a night. If not, we can plan from there.
We took what we needed. Headlamps, medkit, and let the tents up. Could always come back for everything. Emily walked with a slight limp, but seemed okay. Cut along the inside of the fence, staying in the black between bulbs. Carousel music kept itself small behind the trees. At the entrance arch, the chain link somehow looked newer and taller than it had before. The gate we'd slipped earlier was now barred shut with a fresh run of chain. Twist wire threaded through like stitches. Padlock hung, heavy and wrong. Clean, not from here. Scrub at the base showed a fresh scuff where someone had stood, nailing their weight into it.
Ranger? Could have come by, mocked it when you saw the cut?
And they would have at least called out. No one mucks a gate like this without checking.
That's government work for you.
Break-ins probably happen all the time.
Emily said, answering for all the people who weren't quite convinced. She touched the chain, then wiped her fingers on her jeans, like she didn't like what the metal left. We tested the mesh, 20 feet to either side. Barbed wire crowned it, modern and mean. Could we climb? Yes. Could we do it fast if we had to? No. Not with Emily's wrap and night under us. We wait for daylight, I said. If it comes to it, we're not climbing over barbed wire in the dark, especially with Emily's leg like this. On the inside edge of the hinge post, my lamp found a white smear low to the ground. Not paint, a handprint, where someone might steady themselves. Fresh enough the dust still outlined lines and pads. Then my being licked off it slowly, like I'd accidentally disturbed something alive.
Back to the square. We'll check Emily's wraps and then decide if maybe there's another way out.
We moved as a group. No one said Ranger again. No one said it was someone else. Park hummed to itself. Didn't care what name we used. We made town square into a shape we could defend. Table under the saloon lee, camera cases under it, medkit open on top, headlamps down to half. I set Zach's camera on the table to watch the carousel and stage. If anything crossed, we'd see it. Base camp, town square, I said to the lens, voice low. We're staying together. If we move as one.
Emergency exit on the row. Saw the sign. With front gate barred and the fence too dangerous to climb. That's our best shot.
We should go now.
In a minute, I said. Want to be sure nobody else is here. If someone is setting up something, I'd rather not step into it. We gave ourselves 5 minutes. That's how long you can stand still and still believe you're doing something. Wind pushed sawdust along the boards and lost interest. The organ music continuing to play the same tune, thin and steady. Something pinged under the stage. Cooling metal or a rod settling. Emily kept her eyes on the hatch.
I've been hearing things since we got here. Like we've been followed all day.
Well, he'd better show himself before I find him.
Wes traced the route on the paper map with a finger. Square, row, emergency exit. Then he circled Widowmaker twice.
If we can't get out, we at least have tools here.
The carousel lights walked themselves around the soffit. On the far edge of the glass, where none of us were, a white smear appeared and vanished as the bulb circled, like hot breath on a cold window. I let it go. We needed a plan more than we needed a ghost story. Row, I said. Emergency exit, careful on the bridge. No one argued. We killed the table lamp and moved.